This will sound very strange, but the famous actor Mark Wahlberg starred in 2 movies released at the end of 2016 about the Deepwater Horizon explosion, as well as the Boston bombing, in which a backpack was used to conceal the bomb that exploded, are prophecies from God that are predicting that a concealed suitcase nuke will be detonated in Manhattan, New York City, on December 2nd, 2023. The date that this video was posted proves that this prediction was made ahead of time, as does this timestamped email and forensic notes PDF. If you are skeptical, please email me and I will forward these to you. Although it has been known since early 2021 that a dirty bomb would explode in Manhattan in the near future. As you can see in this email, this prediction for a dirty bomb explosion in Manhattan on December 2nd was known since at least September 29th. There are also many other videos on this channel that make this prediction that were posted many days before this video was posted. This very important video explains part of God's big picture of prophetic signs, patterns, and connections, and an important story God told that pointed to September 25th, 2023, regarding the prediction for an explosion of a dirty bomb or suitcase nuke in Manhattan, New York City, and mass evacuation from Manhattan Island on December 2nd, 2023. September 25th ended up being the penultimate step in the trail of signs leading to December 2nd. For a full explanation of the very important prophetic signs that occurred on September 25th, including the 67th Annual International Atomic Energy Agency Conference, that revealed adding 67 days to September 25th to reach December 2nd, the predicted date for the dirty bomb or suitcase nuke explosion in Manhattan. Watch the amazing video titled Bomb in New York City on 12/2, December 2nd, equals 343 firefighters lost on 9/11 prophecy. Alright, now in this video, I'm going to talk about this theme of trail of signs that is leading to the prediction that a suitcase nuke will be detonated in New York City on September 25th, 2023. I made videos, a number of them, prior to this video, predicting that it would be dirty bombs that would explode on this date here, but new information has come to light. Today is September 14th as I'm recording this, and it is now apparent that it won't be a dirty bomb, but instead a suitcase nuke. I could be wrong. There could be some kind of in-between massive explosion, massive amount of nuclear material. What I know is that God is communicating suitcase nuke symbolism in his science. And therefore I have to conclude, given also the severity of the warnings that God is communicating, that it would be more than a dirty bomb. Because a dirty bomb is mostly psychological, the effect of one. Obviously, a nuclear bomb would be much more devastating. So, I don't know, we'll see. But what I'm going to do anyway is explain why I think that God is communicating a suitcase nuke. And this goes back to the Deepwater Horizon explosion. Okay, this is an explosion sign, part of the trail of signs and numerous explosion signs that God has been communicating to be the big thing that will be the follow-up judgment to the 9/11 warning of judgment on 9/11 in 2001. The follow-up will be the explosions that will be the suitcase nuke, as I will explain here. So Deepwater Horizon is one of these such signs. This was obviously a major event. It was in the news for a long time. It occurred on April 20th, 2010. This was the day that the It exploded the pipe at the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico, and in it there were 11 deaths and 17 injured. This is extremely prophetic and confirms that this is a sign. This is how God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections works. It works on the principle of second and third and multiple witnesses confirming a matter, as the Bible says is required. And this is what makes what is being explained on this channel true and not a product of one's imagination, and different and unique than everything else on the internet that claims to be an analysis of God's prophetic signs. And one simple way in which he confirms signs, provides second witnesses, is through pairing certain numbers together. And there are a couple of reasons, or a few, why 11 and 17 are paired together. But first of all, what makes this a 9/11 sign is that it was Flight 11, which had a crew of 11, that flew into the Twin Towers, the North Tower, which looked like a giant 11. The Twin Towers looked like a giant 11 in New York State, the 11th state to join the Union. And New York City has 11 letters in its name. And this is because Jesus coined the phrase the 11th hour, which referred to the last hour of daylight before darkness in ancient Israel, which in English is an idiom that means last chance. Time is running out, as in last chance for the nation to repent and turn back to God, which is what the 9/11 judgment warning was. But the warning wasn't finished until the second witness. And again, that's how God works. It requires a second witness to confirm a matter. And so after the first plane hit, which was Flight 11 with its crew of 11 people, into the towers that looked like a giant 11, the world watched but was confused as to whether or not it was an accident or a bomb or an accidental plane went into the towers or terrorism. But then 17 minutes later, the second plane flew into the second tower and the world watched live in horror as it was confirmed that it was terrorism, which confirmed that it was an act of God, which pointed to Isaiah chapter 9, verse 10 through 11, which was the judgment warning on ancient Israel of the ancient Assyrian raid, a temporary invasion of Israel. It was a warning, just like 9/11 was a temporary invade, and the terrorists on 9/11 came from the same part of the world. And on, the parallels between 9/11 and Isaiah 9, 10 through 11. But it was 17 minutes later, so that's why 11 and 17. Also, the 1117th word in Strong's Hebrew Old Testament Concordance is the word high place. And that's where the 9/11 events occurred. They occurred in the high place, the high towers. The name Bama in Hebrew means high place. That's this word. It's Bama. This is because the name Barack Obama reveals the identity of the Antichrist, because Jesus said in Luke 10:18 that he saw Satan falling like lightning from heaven, and Barak in Hebrew means lightning. And in Aramaic, the language Jesus would have spoken, the word for from is O. So Barack Obama means lightning from high place. But high place in the Bible is a metaphor for heaven, as it says Lucifer fell from the high place, a metaphor for heaven. Furthermore, in the Bible, the high place is a euphemism for the false religious worship that the Jews would do on the tops of mountains. Anyway, that's another reason why 11 and 17 are paired together. This is why also Obama released his prophetic A Promised Land book on the date 11/17. And the Antichrist is described in Zechariah 11:17, God's worthless servant. And the first instance of the word owl in the Bible is Leviticus 11:17. And Obama was known as a night owl, in contrast with his predecessor, who was known to be an early bird. Okay, now, so anyway, this is clearly a 9/11 sign, is what I'm getting at. And it's an explosion sign, as was 9/11. The planes exploded in the towers. And that's why we have this exact 10 months and 19 days to this date here, which was the nuclear waste Fukushima disaster. And in Japan, which is symbolism for nuclear bombs, as the first nuclear bombs were used in Japan. Okay, now I explained in the Sam Brinton video this 11 years and 9 months connection to the day that Sam Brinton was fired. And he is the guy, I'll just get his title here. He is the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Spent Fuel and Waste Disposition in the Office of Nuclear Energy. Okay, and he was fired because it came out that he is the suitcase thief. He was stealing suitcases from airports in order to pursue his obsession with his fetish with women's clothing. Okay, so anyway, so that's 11 years and 9 months, which confirms this 9/11 connection symbolism here too. 10 months and 19 days is a hint at 9/11, and this is a second witness to it. And again, that's how it works. Second witness is confirming a matter. Now, this is explained in the other Sam Brinton video. I'm now explaining this part of this diagram. Okay, so this 9/11 symbolism is in turn a second witness to this 9/11 symbolism connection. This is 1,091 days, and God uses this, including 191 in his signs, as 9/11 symbolism. So 1,091 days is 9/11 symbolism. This is a 9/11 sign because of the 11 deaths and 17 injured, as I explained. What does this connect to? It connects to another explosion, a major one, a major event in American history also, just like the Deepwater Horizon event was a major event in American history. For years afterwards, the Gulf Coast suffered with the oil on its shore, for example. Okay. So this was the Boston bombing at the finish line of the marathon on Patriots' Day, which is the day that is a holiday in Massachusetts because it's the day that the Revolutionary War began at the Battle of Lexington. Okay? And the thing is, this bombing here was a backpack. It was a backpack, which is symbolism for a compact, hidden suitcase nuke. The backpack was hidden in a garbage can, and this is symbolism for the hidden aspect of a suitcase nuke. It is a compact nuke that's portable, just like a backpack, and can be hidden, just like this bombing at the Boston bombing. This is astounding. This is what makes this suitcase nuke symbolism in context of what I'm talking about here, which is that this is leading to the prediction of the dirty bomb. Okay. By the way, something I just realized, this was the 101 anniversary of the sinking of the Titanic. And the Titanic has on its propeller, as we have now learned from the new prophetic images that have recently been released, the number 101 stamped on it. And so the number 101 is part of Titanic symbolism. Furthermore, the Titanic is a judgment warning from God that points back to the crossing of the Atlantic of the Mayflower and the Pilgrims that arrived with 101 passengers to Boston, to Massachusetts. And that's why the Boston bombing occurred 101 years after the Titanic sunk, and the Titanic is a number 101 sign. God pairs that with this 90 months connection, which gives us a 9/11 symbolism. Okay, this 19 months that I'm about to explain. But before I explain this, I want to explain something else, which is Mark Wahlberg, the famous actor. In 2016, these two movies were released, which coincidentally are about these two events. Within, I think, 2 months, period, if I recall. I could be wrong, but either way, they were both released in 2016, the same year. These two movies starring Mark Wahlberg were about these two events, the Deepwater Horizon explosion and the Boston bombing explosion. And he's the main character in both of the movies. Now, his name in simple English gematria is 119, which hints at 9/11. That's astounding. That is more confirmation of this connection between the Deepwater Horizon explosion and the Boston bombing explosion. The fact that Mark Wahlberg ties it together as well. If you don't know what gematria is, Hebrew, Greek, and Roman letters are also numbers, and as such, we can convert them into a numeric value, names and words. If we do the same thing with English gematria, simple English gematria, A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 3, the name Mark Wahlberg equals 119. And that is because it's designed by God, because he starred in these two movies that connect to each other in this prophetic connection here of 1,091 days. This is, do you appreciate the magnitude here? All of history is in fact a prophetic sign when we get into it. All of these events are all part of this warning, which is only being explained on this channel. And I figure the reason why, and I know the reason why, I don't just figure, I know the reason why, is to confirm the controversial things that I'm saying in these videos. This isn't just for entertainment. This is, first of all, to prove that the God of the Bible is the true God. But it is also to prove these controversial things that I am saying. And I haven't come upon one yet, except for perhaps the fact that Obama is the Antichrist. But anyway, that's why God has given me a voice through these predictions. It's to prove to you that this is God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections, which is only being explained on this channel. So therefore, obviously, when the prediction comes to pass, you will know you need to watch every single minute of every video on this channel. I apologize that the videos are as long as they are, but they have to be. You'll get through them, just binge watch them or whatever, but make sure you watch all of them. Not just a couple of them, and think that you got the idea. No, there's many things that God is communicating, and what I'm saying is that God is communicating what I'm saying. The predictions prove that this is from God. So obviously you're going to want to learn everything, right? If this is from God. Now, so the reason why this 90 months connection, okay? Now I didn't have space to write these events. I'll just go through them quickly. This trail of signs right here, though, is explained in other videos. So I'm just going to go through it quickly here. The Boston bombing was also about the manhunt and the middle date, because the manhunt ended on the 19th. The middle date was the 17th. And that was the day of the West Texas explosion. Now, there's a coincidence here that confirms the connection, which is a second witness, in other words. These two events were examples of major disaster preparedness drills coinciding with the exact thing that they were preparing for. So the West Texas explosion, which was the explosion of the fertilizer plant in West Texas, I forget how many people it killed. It was a massive explosion. It caused a crater in the ground. And I've got photos of it in the other videos. Okay. That was on this at the same time as the biggest ever preparedness drill for the same type of scenario in the hospital in northern, for the region of northern Texas. The biggest ever drill for northern Texas for this same type of scenario. Okay. And the Boston bombing occurred 1 month before the already planned, biggest ever coordinated with the FBI and police departments from the Northeast of this exact same scenario. Someone leaving a bomb at Faneuil Hall, downtown Boston, a tourist place, and then there being a manhunt for the bomber, which is exactly what happened. And I personally don't believe it's a conspiracy theory. I know if you don't believe in God, though, or that God would do such a thing, then you are naturally led to concluding that it's a conspiracy theory. What else are you going to believe, right? Obviously, you are correct that can't be a coincidence. But it isn't a conspiracy theory. It's from God as a second witness, okay? But anyway, the 19 months, as I just explained, is confirmed with the second witness with the 101 years. But it is exactly 19 months from the West Texas explosion to this October 17th, 2020 date. This was known ahead of time that it was known ahead of time that there would be an explosion on this date. And to tell you how long that God has been developing this trail of signs that are leading to the predicted explosion in Manhattan, I actually thought before this date that the dirty bomb explosion, or a bomb explosion, I didn't know dirty bomb back then, I don't think. But I just knew that there would be an explosion in New York, And I knew that it would be on this date, or I thought it would be. That's because of the connections to this date, including the connections from Harrison Ford. I know that sounds strange. It's explained in other videos. But the explosion ended up being on this day, which was national news, the explosion in Harrisonburg, Virginia. That was mind-boggling, because that was predicted ahead of time. I predicted an explosion because of the connections from Harrison Ford, and then there was the explosion in Harrisonburg. Furthermore, Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash when her engine explodes, and Harrison Ford is known for his aviation mishaps, which points or hints at the coming aviation mishap of Kamala Harris, as in Harrison Ford. So anyway, the explosion was at the finish line of a marathon, and it injured 3 people. And the Boston Marathon was the explosion at the finish line of the Boston Marathon that killed 3 people. So that's the confirmation of the connection of the 19 months exactly, which pairs with the 23 because God pairs 9 and 23 together. And I've explained it so many times, so I'm not going to explain it again. The basketball president wore jersey number 23, who played basketball in high school. He became president in 2009, will become the president again in 2023, and on and on. Okay, so but the point is that confirms the connections. So it's exactly 23 weeks after the exact 19 months connection, which confirms the connections. And that gets us to this explosion right here, which was also predicted in advance. And it was because of the 23 weeks connection, which I knew ahead of time because of the pairing with 90 months. I knew this ahead of time. This was March 28th, 2021. Again, I didn't know what to expect on that date, but I knew that there would be an explosion. I thought actually at the time, because it's also part of the trails that of signs that are leading to the explosion of Kamala Harris's airplane, or her engine. But anyway, it ended up being the explosions, the terrorist bombings in Indonesia at the church bombings, which is part of a trail of signs that God is demonstrating of church bombing signs that go back to the Bali bombing when in 2002, 2 suicide bombers killed 202 people in 2002, exactly 22 years before the second coming, because that was on October 12th, 2002, exactly 22 years before October 12th, 2024, the day of the second coming. This is why all the twos. Anyway, this is another instance of 2 suicide bombers in the church bombing, which is a judgment warning for the church. The main theme of God's signs, big picture of signs, patterns, and connections is judgment warning for the church. As Peter said, judgment begins with the church, and God is very, very displeased with the church. And this is why it is exactly 50 weeks, which is symbolic of the church, because the number 50 symbolizes Pentecost. Pentecost literally means 50th day, and Pentecost symbolizes the church. And Pentecost is also known as the Feast of Weeks, hence why 50 weeks connections in God's signs in context of church judgment warning signs are relevant. And we have this church bombing connecting with exactly 50 weeks to this date, March 13th, 2022. And this is the day of the explosions, the 12 of them outside of the consulate in Iraq, and also the day of the explosion on the border of Poland in Ukraine, which is essentially the border of NATO, which is essentially American organization. And anyway, so this is also a judgment for America, and that's how God's signs works. They're all judgment warning foreign signs for America, because America is God's Gentile nation. There are only 2 nations in American history, the world's history, that were founded on a relationship with God, Israel and America. And so anyway, this is explained in other videos, okay, what happened on this date. But anyway, this date in turn was exactly 90 plus 90 plus 90 days. To this date here, which was when player number 99 for the New York Yankees, as in the suitcase nuke that will explode in New York, signed his 9-year contract, and his name is Aaron Judge. Okay, that's astounding that his name is Aaron Judge, because the number 9 in God's signs, which is only being explained on this channel, his true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections from the Bible, symbolizes God's judgment, the number 9. This player is number 9, and his name is Judge. And that's why he signed his 9-year contract on this date. And that confirms the 9 plus 90 plus 90 days to the explosion there. And this is New York, because that's where this suitcase nuke will explode. And this is exactly 18 weeks, which is 9 plus 9 weeks, which hints at the number 99, which is his number. And by the way, he's famous for breaking Roger Maris's home run record, and he was New York Yankees number 9. And so 18 weeks is also 6 plus 6 plus 6 weeks, which hints at the Antichrist, 666. And anyway, it's exactly 18 weeks to this explosion sign right here, which was the news of the 18,000 cows in the fire in the farm in Texas. And it was also the day of the news of the day of the arrest of the 21-year-old document leaker, and the story was all about how young he was. It was hard to believe that the 21-year-old could have obtained these highly classified documents. The 21-year-old, okay, and he was in Massachusetts, which is why we connect it with 21 days to the date 5/4, which hints at the 54th Massachusetts Regiment, as explained in the other videos. Okay, now also his name was Tehera, which is rooted in the Latin for the word toxic. It goes through the word for the yew tree, which is named after toxic from Latin, because if you eat one of the berries of the yew tree, you will die. So that's why the tree is named after the Latin word toxic, and that's the root of the name Tehera, which is the name of the 21-year-old document leaker. And that, I figured at the time, was part of the trail of signs that is indicating a dirty bomb. Toxic material, dirty bomb, that's what the purpose of a dirty bomb is. So it could be a dirty bomb, but I think we are talking about a suitcase nuke. And I think the Mark Wahlberg connections to the backpack bombing here is a confirmation of it. Anyway, that gets us to the date 5/4, and one of the signs on this date, as explained in other videos, was the 12th state that passed their law on that date restricting abortion to 12 weeks, which hints at 12 times 12 days, 144 days. Very prophetic in Bible prophecy in the book of Revelation, the number 144. And that's why that connects us to this date here. September 25th, the date is predicted that a suitcase nuke will be detonated in New York City. The follow-up of judgment to the judgment warning on 9/11, which is why we have the 9/11 symbolism here, in this case connecting back to the Deepwater Horizon explosion and also the New York Yankees player. And anyway, this is amazing confirmation. We will see what happens, but I think the evidence is, the case can be made that it will be a, no pun intended, suitcase nuke. All right, now this entire trail here from the day of the Boston bombing on April 15th, 2013 is exactly 545 weeks to the predicted date of the suitcase nuke detonation in New York City. The reason for 545 is because the 545th word in Strong's Greek New Testament Concordance is the word that means unbelieving, disobedient, who will not be persuaded. Literally unwilling to be persuaded, brackets, by God, unbrackets, which shows itself in outward disobedience, outward spiritual rebellion, disobedient because unpersuaded, which is perfect for this context. In other words, America, being warned of the judgment, is unpersuaded by all of the warnings and is disobedient in spiritual rebellion outwardly. And so from the Mark Wahlberg prophecy here, because again, these two events were portrayed in movies starring Mark Wahlberg, and the name Mark Wahlberg in simple English gematria is 119, which hints at 9/11. We have the connection, in other words, a direct connection from the Boston bombing, right? Which was, again, 101 years exactly after the sinking of the Titanic that has the number 101 on its propeller. And also with one more connection, which is 9/11 symbolism, to the Deepwater Horizon explosion. So this is profound. Although we have this other trail right here that was observed throughout the years, we also have a direct 545 weeks connection, which means disobedient, outward spiritual rebellion against God. Aliens and UFOs are demons masquerading as aliens and UFOs. Most people's spiritual experiences are demonic deception, especially if they are not a true follower of Christ. God became a man and died a horrible death at the hand of the ruler of this world, Satan, and then defeated death for you, so that you too can overcome death, which is the price that must be paid for sin. It is time to repent, which means to change one's ways and turn to God and become a disciple of Jesus. Please leave a like and upvote the video, and once this prediction has come to pass, share this video with everyone you know, and more, don't stop sharing it everywhere in social media. It is essential that everyone immediately read the homepage of my website, TrumpPrediction.com. If you are watching this on the YouTube platform, please note that not all of the videos are on YouTube. You need to switch to the BitChute.com or the Odyssey.com channel. And do it now in case you aren't able to later.